The kingdom of heaven isn't a place you go when you die. It's a state of consciousness available to you right now. This revelation isn't New Age philosophy. It's what Jesus taught according to mystical interpretations of his words. When he said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you," he was describing what we now call Christ consciousness. This profound truth has been hidden behind literal interpretations and religious dogma for centuries. Today I'm pulling back the veil on what Christ consciousness means and why quantum physicists, spiritual teachers, and even religious scholars recognize it as the next evolution in human awareness. If you've been feeling called to something deeper in your spiritual journey, this video might be the missing piece you've been searching for. The misunderstood truth behind Christ consciousness. Picture this. You're sitting in a church pew, hearing about Jesus as the one and only Christ. The term Christ comes from the Greek word meaning the anointed one, but it represents something universal, describing a state of consciousness, a cosmic intelligence at the root of all life. This isn't about worshipping a person. It's about awakening to a potential within each of us. Across cultures and spiritual traditions, we find strikingly similar ideas. In Hinduism, Krishna embodies this elevated consciousness. Buddhism speaks of Buddha nature, a quality of awakened awareness. Indigenous traditions also recognize a universal connection to something greater. Dr. David Hawkins' research placed Christ, Krishna, and Buddha at the highest levels of consciousness, suggesting these are not competing ideas but expressions of the same truth. Mystics throughout history, regardless of background, have described profound unity, unconditional love, and direct connection to the divine. These experiences transcend ordinary perception, revealing a consistent pattern across time and geography. Sources describe Christ consciousness, a state accessible to all human beings. For example, mystics like Rumi and Meister Eckhart wrote of losing the sense of separation and merging with a greater whole, illustrating this universal experience. But why has this understanding been obscured? Historical events like the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD marked a turning point. Original teachings were altered, blending truth with distortion. Some researchers describe this as creating a frequency fence, a metaphor for how people were kept in lower states of awareness. When trapped in these states, individuals become easier to control. The idea that divinity exists within each person challenges systems built on external authority. The original message was radical. It wasn't about worshipping someone else as Christ, but realizing that same potential within yourself. Different traditions use different names for this experience, but the path is consistent. Expanding your heart with unconditional love, finding inner peace, and recognizing the interconnectedness of all life. Modern science echoes these teachings. Quantum physics suggests everything in the universe is fundamentally connected, aligning with what mystics have said for centuries. Christ consciousness represents seeing through the illusion of separation to the unity beneath. It's not about religion, it's about awakening to what's already within. The journey to higher awareness. Imagine waking up each day feeling like you're running on a treadmill, chasing something you can't quite name. You have the job, the relationships, the achievements, everything society says should make you happy. Yet there's a gnawing emptiness, like trying to quench your thirst with salt water. This dissatisfaction is the first sign of spiritual awakening, what Joseph Campbell called the call to adventure. Studies show that materialism is often linked to lower happiness and higher anxiety, revealing how the very things we pursue for fulfillment can leave us feeling more hollow. This is where the journey begins. The ego, that inner voice insisting you're separate and must protect yourself, becomes the main obstacle. It builds walls of fear, fear of change, fear of losing control, fear of the unknown. These fears keep you trapped, convincing you that clinging to the familiar, even if it's painful, is safer than stepping into the unknown. It's like gripping a cliff edge, terrified to let go, even though the only way forward is to release and discover you can fly. True transformation requires what mystics call a death before death, not a physical death, but the shedding of the false self. This false self is built from societal expectations, past traumas, and the need for approval. Letting go feels terrifying because the ego fights to survive, whispering that falling means destruction. But it's the beginning of a rebirth, a rediscovery of who you are beneath the layers of conditioning. The process unfolds in stages. First comes awareness, recognizing how often fear drives your choices. Then comes the courage to question those fears. Research shows fear narrows your focus to survival mode, blocking creativity, intuition, and connection. As you release fear, you begin to experience expanded awareness, glimpses of timelessness, unconditional love, and deep peace. The path isn't linear. Old patterns resurface and resistance reappears. But each challenge burns away another layer of illusion, revealing a more authentic self. Over time, these moments of clarity grow, and you begin to see the same divine spark in others that you've glimpsed in yourself. This is the unfolding of Christ consciousness, a gradual remembering of your true nature. Ancient wisdom across cultures. Here's where it gets interesting. Nearly every ancient culture described this state of being we call Christ consciousness. The names and symbols vary, but the essence remains strikingly similar. In Hinduism, Krishna consciousness embodies love, wisdom, and unity, described in the Bhagavad Gita as the realization of the self, where the soul recognizes its oneness with the universal. Similarly, Buddha nature in Buddhism points to this truth, approached through mental clarity and detachment. These paths may differ in method, but they reflect alternate routes to the same destination. Indigenous traditions offer profound insights. The Lakota speak of Wakantanka, the Great Spirit, a unifying force present in all life. The Aboriginal Dreamtime describes a state of consciousness where time collapses, revealing the interconnectedness of existence. These aren't abstract metaphors, but direct experiences recorded by cultures separated by oceans and centuries. The Gospel of Thomas, a Gnostic text, strips away dogma to reveal Jesus' teachings as inner awakening. One verse states, "The kingdom of God is inside you and outside you," pointing to the same realization as sense satori, sudden insight into reality. The symbols across traditions deepen these parallels. Central to Christianity, the cross represents the union of opposites, heaven and earth, inner and outer worlds. The Vesica Piscis, the almond shape often surrounding Christ, symbolizes the sacred marriage of heart and mind. In Taoism, the yin-yang embodies harmony between opposing forces. These symbols map the same psychological and spiritual terrain. Paramahansa Yogananda taught that Christ consciousness isn't exclusive to Christianity, but exists universally, often veiled by ego, yet never destroyed. Modern research supports this unity. Studies on mystical experiences across cultures reveal consistent patterns, feelings of oneness, timelessness, and unconditional love. Whether a Sufi mystic, Christian contemplative, or Buddhist monk, the descriptions align. Practices like prayer, meditation, and chanting may differ, but the outcome remains the same: inner transformation. The implications are profound. If these traditions point to the same awareness, their conflicts stem from misunderstanding. The Gospel of Thomas says, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you." This echoes the Diamond Sutra's teaching to see through the illusion of separateness. Both call us to awaken from the dream of division and remember our shared essence. The science behind spiritual awakening. But what if your mind shapes the world around you? For centuries, mystics described reality as an interconnected web, while science insisted the universe was made of separate, solid objects. Now, quantum physics is revealing a more profound truth. The materialist view that reality is just matter and energy is being challenged. At its core, everything is connected in ways that defy common sense. Consider quantum entanglement. Two particles become linked no matter the distance. Change one and the other instantly responds, faster than light could travel between them. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance, but it's now proven. Imagine two dancers perfectly in sync, even when separated by miles. This reflects the mystical idea of oneness, where separation is an illusion. Then there's the observer effect. Particles behave differently when observed, as if consciousness shapes reality. This suggests the mind isn't a passive witness, but an active participant in creation. This contradicts the assumption that consciousness comes from the brain. Some researchers propose the opposite, that consciousness is fundamental and the physical world arises from it. Think of the brain as a radio receiver tuning into a universal field of awareness. Near-death experiences support this idea. People with no brain activity report vivid, coherent experiences, hinting that consciousness can exist beyond the body. Quantum physics also describes a universe of potential. Particles exist as possibilities until observed, echoing spiritual teachings that awareness shapes reality. Meditation practitioners often describe dissolving into a field of pure potential, what physicists call the quantum vacuum. Both point to a foundational layer of reality where all possibilities exist. Even time behaves strangely at quantum levels. Particles can influence events in their past, blurring cause and effect. Mystics have long claimed that time collapses into an eternal now in higher states of consciousness. Both perspectives suggest our linear experience of time is a limited construct. The implications are profound. If consciousness shapes reality, then fear-based thoughts create a denser world, while love and unity generate a more fluid, interconnected experience. This isn't just philosophy, it's how quantum systems behave. Entangled systems cooperate, while isolated ones fall into disorder. Science and spirituality converge here, offering a complete picture of reality and a path to live by. Recognizing the signs within yourself. You may have already experienced glimpses of Christ consciousness without realizing it. These moments often come unexpectedly, a sudden sense of peace while walking through a sunlit forest, the stillness of a quiet morning when the world feels hushed, or the warmth of unconditional love while holding a child. These aren't random emotions, they're flashes of a higher state of awareness breaking through your everyday consciousness, offering a profound sense of connection and clarity. Think about the last time you felt completely present, when time seemed to slow and everything around you felt alive with meaning. Maybe it was during a crisis, when distractions fell away and life's raw beauty became undeniable. Or perhaps it was a moment of joy, like watching a sunset that painted the sky in colors so vivid they seemed to pulse with life. These awakenings often occur during major life transitions, loss, illness, or moments of intense happiness. Many report such experiences, although they don't always recognize their deeper significance. These moments share certain hallmarks, a sense of timelessness, as if the clock no longer matters, a softening of boundaries, where you feel connected to everything around you. and a quieting of thoughts replaced by a deep, unshakable knowing. Emotions feel pure, untangled from daily worries. These aren't just fleeting feelings, they're glimpses of the consciousness Jesus embodied. Practices like meditation and prayer help cultivate this awareness, much like Jesus withdrawing to pray in solitude. Modern life often trains us to dismiss these experiences. We label them as just imagination. But what if they're showing us what's possible? These moments are like cracks in a door, offering a glimpse of the divine within. Notice when your perception shifts, when colors seem brighter, or a wave of peace washes over you. The peace you touch in these moments isn't something to achieve, it's your natural state, waiting to be uncovered. These glimpses are reminders of what's possible, guiding us toward our true nature. Why this matters now more than ever. Imagine a world where every decision came from a deep sense of unity. What would our world look like? Conflicts resolved through understanding, innovation driven by interconnectedness, and fear replaced by wisdom. Yet today our global challenges, polarization, environmental crises, endless conflicts, reflect a collective consciousness stuck in separation and fear. Fear-based thinking creates predictable patterns. It drives us to see others as threats, hoard resources, and cling to outdated systems. Research shows that groups operating from fear exhibit lower creativity, reduced cooperation, and increased aggression. Studies on social contagion reveal how emotions ripple through communities. Anxiety in one person can spread like wildfire. When enough people believe in scarcity and conflict, that becomes the collective experience. History offers glimpses of another way. Gandhi's independence movement embodied ahimsa, non-violence, and satya, truth, showing the world the power of moral clarity. When British soldiers beat unarmed protesters, the disparity was undeniable. Years later, Martin Luther King Jr.'s civil rights marches echoed this principle, disrupting cycles of violence by meeting hatred with love. These movements didn't overpower opponents, they shifted collective awareness. Modern research supports this. The Global Consciousness Project found that synchronized meditation events correlate with measurable changes in physical systems. In high-crime areas, group meditation reduced violent crime rates by an average of 23%. These findings highlight how consciousness influences reality. When individuals align with higher states like Christ consciousness, the effects ripple outward. Personal transformation fuels this shift. Research shows that teams with even one heart-centered member perform better on creative tasks. Every individual awakening to Christ consciousness becomes a node in the collective field, subtly elevating group dynamics. The crises we face, climate disasters, pandemics, AI ethics, demand solutions rooted in unity, not division. The future isn't fixed. Systems mirror minds. As more people embody Christ consciousness, the world transforms. Change begins with belief. Be the change you wish to see. Here's the truth. Christ consciousness is about awakening the divine potential already within you. It's the realization that love, wisdom, and unity aren't qualities to earn, but to remember. Your journey begins the moment you see this as your true nature. Those glimpses of peace, connection, or clarity. They're signs of what's possible,